Hello and welcome to the Live Streamer Backstage podcast. I'm Alec Johnson, and this is a weekly show where I interview fellow live streamers to understand the tech, the gear and the software that they are using to produce great live shows. My guest today is Katy Simpson, a live streamer, podcaster, entrepreneur and coach who is passionate about helping online business owners amplify their own unique voice and message through live video and podcasting. Katy is an advocate of the Start With Live approach to podcasting, and I certainly wholeheartedly agree with that approach, which is why this podcast is streamed live to Amazon and LinkedIn every week. Now, in this show, we regularly focus on the tech-laden studios of my guests, looking at all of the gear and gadgets that they have in their streaming setups. Not really setting a great example if you are just starting out or if you are prone to gear acquisition syndrome, which is wanting or feeling you need the latest and greatest gear in order to make a start. Now, whilst I and indeed all of my previous guests have been very clear that you don't need all of this gear to start streaming, what is often overlooked is that you do in fact need a certain level of confidence on camera, something that a lot of people struggle with. This is where Katy comes in because her coaching and courses teach that you don't actually need all of the gear, and they break everything down into its simplest form from the tech perspective, minimizing the overwhelm and showing that it doesn't have to be expensive or complicated to start streaming. Instead, she puts the emphasis more on building that confidence that is required in order to use live video as an effective business tool. With over 20 years experience as a vocal coach and known as the Queen of Encouragement, I'm really keen to understand some of the ways in which Katy helps people build that confidence and, of course, learn more about the live-first approach to podcasting that she advocates. Lots to talk about then, so without further ado, let's welcome Katy Simpson. Hey, Katy, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Alec. I really, really appreciate it. It's fantastic to be here. Thank you.
Great stuff. Well, great to have you here, and really excited to hear about all the things that you are doing. So perhaps you could start by just giving a bit more of an introduction into sort of your background and what it is that you do and how you got into to live streaming.
Yeah. Hi. So, interesting journeys we have in our careers and in our lives, isn't it? So, I've been like a vocal coach for over 20 years, and I've always loved helping people to be their best selves, finding their true voice. And I don't mean that that's necessarily just your physical voice, but it's your whole message, it's your whole unique self, and being able to sort of project that, as it were, perform with that, and but not perform being somebody else, but being you, sort of projecting the best version of you in whatever aspect that is at the time. And I actually I went on the ClickFunnels course, like the low cost sort of course. I can't remember what it's called now. And learning to make a funnel.
Yeah,
I think it's called funnels.
Funnel hacking, is it? Is that the one?
I think so. Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we were encouraged to think about what main aspect we could focus on in our content creation. Would it be live video? Would it be blogging? Would it be podcasting, etc.? And so while we were thinking about that, we were encouraged to get into like accountability groups. And so a group of us got together on a Zoom sort of weekly chat, and we became really firm friends. And it wasn't me who called it, but one of them called it something like the group for terrified live streamers, something like that.
Right.
And after a few weeks, they were sort of talking about being terrified about this live video aspect and everything. And I sort of thought, well, actually, I really enjoy it. I don't find it terrifying at all. And they were like, what? So it was really quite funny. And that sort of made me, sometimes we get these moments, don't we, where a sort of bit of a light bulb goes off and we think, well, actually, I'm quite good at such and such.
Mhm.
But I didn't come from a confident place at all. And I think that's why I tend to really love helping people and encouraging them
Mhm.
as a person, encouraging them to building them up,
Right.
and finding their best strengths.
Mhm.
Because I started my whole sort of voice career from a place of really struggling in life, very difficult aspects to my upbringing, and my confidence was at real rock bottom, really. And the schools that I was going to, the teachers, some of them were really, really old fashioned and very, very looking down at their nose at me and saying that in front of a whole class, or
Oh dear.
you're not capable of
Mhm.
all this sort of thing. That happened actually quite often in my upbringing. And I loved music. Music had always been um my safety place, my place of sort of healing and
Mhm.
whatever. And I sort of taught myself guitar and things like that in my room. And I had a real natural talent, but I didn't really know that. And I thought I was terrible at singing. And I was doing a music A level, and the teacher said to me, "Well, your grades are really low. You're really struggling with this. Blah blah blah. A load of negative stuff. Um, have singing lessons. That will help you to understand music a bit more." So I started having lessons, and my mum was struggling to pay for it. And she said, "Look, can you just say to the teacher you'd like to do some grade exams? You'd like some exams, so at least we've got something for all this money that we're spending on it." So after a few lessons, it wasn't very long, I just asked her, and she said, "Oh yeah, well, you could go for grade 6 first of all," which is quite a high grade.
Mhm.
I was absolutely stunned. And then a few weeks later, she said, "Well, have you considered doing singing as a career?" I was like, "Pardon?" um, so I did do singing as a career for quite a while. But anyway, that whole I just needed one person
Yeah.
to see my um abilities,
Yes.
see
Yeah.
what I was able to do. I just needed one load of negative stuff, but sometimes it just takes that one person, doesn't
Mhm.
it, to recognize something in you and be able to bring it out when you wouldn't know that yourself. So in a long roundabout way, that's how I came to live streaming and to coaching other people to find their best selves and their confidence, be able to show that to the world.
Mhm. Well, I feel so sorry that you went through that experience to get there, but I mean, it must make it so so easy to relate to other people then, and the things that they're going through, and the struggles that they have then. But yeah, what?
Yeah, it's it yeah, thank you, Alec. It's we can say that it's well, we should be able to say to ourselves that it's a blessing that we've gone through
Mhm.
difficult times, because it not only does it we might not feel like it's a blessing, but it does develop our character, and it does help us in business. We can These struggles are often the things that really make us unique and be able to help people in a unique way, isn't
Uh-huh.
it? So we have to try and think of it as a blessing.
Mhm.
um and some people say embrace your flaws, you know those things that you think are flaws. I have this problem, I have struggled with this bad thing has happened to me, I find this difficult or whatever. and we see them as our flaws, but we should, embrace them and treat them as a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And try and find, that's my approach. I've not got anything to go through quite as bad as you've experienced, but I'm always the person trying to look for the positive in everything that I go through as well. But I know it's not always not always easy, depending on what you're in at that particular time. When you were going through your singing career, then how long was it before you started actually coaching others in that? Was that something that came quite soon on, or was that how quickly did that develop?
Yeah, so I think I have got a degree in teaching, and I think I've always had that in me, that I want to help people.
Right.
I've always wanted to help people, and teaching can be really hard, especially if you're like in a secondary school that
Right.
I was in for 7 years, with really unruly kids and stuff like that. But you do learn a lot from that. But yeah, I think I've always loved lifting people up and but also teaching them the things that I love as well.
Yeah.
Because Alec and I were having a little chat earlier, and he was saying how he loves the tech, and it's like being in a sweetie shop.
Yeah.
Well, I think, it's the things that we've sort of been gifted in and that we love to do. It's such an honor, really, isn't it, to be able to bring that across to others and help others with that. It's just such a win-win, isn't it? They say, you never work a day in your life if you love what you're doing.
Yes.
And I think that is just so fantastic. And if we bring that into live video as well, you can probably tell in my voice and my eyes and my whole demeanor that I'm loving what I'm talking about. And it comes across as that excitement, doesn't it? And that's, I think, when you're really good as a coach, when you're really good as a teacher, you've got that innate excitement and joy and love. And I think people can't help but be a bit inspired and interested.
Yes, yeah.
In that. It's those teachers that you think about in the past who maybe say, right, turn to page 10.
Yeah.
Right, do these exercises. The whole voice, everything is just like, ugh.
Yes. Total turn off for the subject. Yeah.
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 They don't want to be here. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I hate this subject.
Yeah, that's true. It's all the subjects that I love are ones where I had a really enthusiastic and positive teacher that was really, enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
And with the live streaming, then, was that something that you started doing actually after the funnel ClickFunnels event, or was that something you've been doing before and ClickFunnels was part of that? Where did you sort of start to do the live the live streaming side of things?
Yeah. So it was at that sort of light bulb moment during that funnel challenge,
right?
That I've realised, actually, I can do this. So I was going live before then. So one of my other little businesses is that I'm a beauty therapist as well. I have a real interest in helping people to feel better in sort of organic beauty and stuff like that. So I was going live actually for a year every week, and nobody was watching any of the lives. But they were really good quality lives. But so I was doing it and I was enjoying it to a certain extent. Although I wanted to learn how to monetize it.
Yes.
How to get a bigger audience. Because at that time, people had said to me, "Oh, you just go live on Facebook and you'll get loads of random people who'll find you." no, that didn't happen. That was bad advice. So I think I was enjoying doing it, but I just wanted to know, look, how can I make this work? Because this is such a waste of time. But I would like doing this if I knew how to, build an audience, blah blah. So yeah, I was doing it for about a year, but I never heard of Periscope or all the other things that were like the older live streaming platforms, as it were.
Yeah.
They're not that old, are they? But I haven't been doing it for that long. So yeah, I'm quite interested to hear when people say about, Periscope came out and I went live on Periscope. I'd never heard of that, so I'm a little bit late to the party, I think, compared to some of us.
Well, there's it's a bit like dog years, isn't it? There's internet years for some of these services that come up and then they die, and then it seems like only yesterday, but it seems like an age ago, but it was only a few years ago, or whatever. But there's going live to an audience of no one is actually a great way to start. I mean, that's one of the things that I think people have this fear of going live, because they suddenly feel like, oh, everyone's going to be watching. And my first live stream on YouTube, I didn't have any subscribers. I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. I just went live, and sure enough, nobody turned up. But I think that people have this fear of live because they think that there is going to be everyone watching, whereas in actual fact, there usually isn't the first few times in any case, and then when you do get people watching, they've got a much more favourable view of you than we may think that people have. I think that people sometimes worry about making mistakes and all of that kind of thing, but most people actually don't really mind it at all.
Yeah, you're right. There are some aspects that, like you're saying, that I really wanted to learn about and then be able to help other people with. There's all these little things that make such a difference if you sort of understand them and know them and can take them on board. Things that we get in our minds and it can just stop us from going live. One of them can be, getting used to looking at the camera.
Yep.
And that, you've got this sort of black evil eye.
That's so true.
And or even, a lot of people who go live on their phone, and they can be doing it they can be just live streaming and doing YouTube videos and things on their phone, and they're not even aware of where the camera is. They just look at themselves.
Yes, yeah.
So that's another little, tip about you must look at the camera, and if it looks a scary, weird, inanimate thing to smile at, put a picture of somebody who's very special to you. Or even a little drawing of a funny little face, and put it there, and maybe imagine your favorite person or your ideal client or whatever, and just have a chat to them and stick it right next to the camera, not on top of it, because nobody will see anything. But something like that. And what you were saying about, if nobody's watching, don't worry about it at all. It's the miles more people will watch it on the replay. And so that's also an important thing for us to remember when we're going live, that we really address them. We say hi to them and welcome them, and don't keep just talking about the people on the live.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, Molly Mahoney, who you probably know, she often says about one of her clients who was just devastated. He'd gone live. I think he was talking about a particular offer or focusing on an offer he was giving. And it was quite a big thing for him. And there was nobody there at all. And he was just absolutely gutted. But all it took was one of his followers to watch the replay and to tell a friend of his that he knew would be interested in that offer. And he sold, like, I don't know, $10,000 of whatever it was,
Right.
on the replay, and it wasn't even somebody who was in his audience. It
Yes,
was
yeah.
so that, I think that sort of thing can be really encouraging for us, and to just make us think a bit outside the box of, oh, I'm live, I'm doing this live, and then it's over.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I think repurposing is really, really important, isn't it? But yeah, I needed to learn those first stages about building an audience, and like you saying, starting to tell people that you're going live, starting to, do the weekly show, so people get used to coming and that you're going to be there, and then seeing the notifications. Those type of things can really help.
I love the tip about, putting a picture of something, of somebody, a loved one or whatever, just close to the camera that you can sort of picture. I know that when I'm doing, like, on my YouTube channel, most of that is sort of tutorial style videos, but I always usually have someone in mind that I'm telling how to do whatever it is. And often it's come from, like someone's literally asked me a question, so I'm making the video for them. But certainly in the early times, I've just always imagined somebody specific that I was talking to. And it certainly helps, as you say, the evil eye. I love that, of the camera.
Yeah, it's like Cyclops. It's like this black, concentric circles. It's like, yeah. Yeah, I think that is a really good tip for YouTube as well. I think people can get really overwhelmed thinking about YouTube. It's got to look great. It's got to have all the stuff.
Yep.
And they can be like absolutely terrified before they record their video, and then probably procrastinate and don't do it for ages. But yeah, like you say, just think about helping one specific person, and the way you come across will be so much more engaging. And it really will speak to lots of people, because they'll feel that you are speaking to them, even if you're not really. You've got this one person in your mind. But I think that can really help with pre-recorded video, doing your course videos for your course and all sorts.
I think the other thing as well is people are worried about making mistakes, not sort of thinking for a moment that, like, we're all just human, and most people aren't going to mind if you do slip up or say something wrong or whatever it happens to be. And I found that when I started doing all of my videos on my YouTube channel, I'd just all done basically live to tape, as it were. So they're all just one take videos. But that was really liberating for me, because I found that before I'd be constantly trying to get the perfect take if I thought I was going to edit things. And so that idea that, well, just do it as if you were just talking to someone, that they were just sitting there, it actually ends up, I think, coming across more natural than something that's sort of edited to within an inch of its life and doesn't have that sort of natural flow to it.
Yeah, so interesting. And that's quite an interesting conversation to have about podcasting as well. Do we need to edit every single filler word out? I mean, it can be a style, and there's different styles of YouTube videos, aren't there? With loads of sort of jump cuts, they call them, don't they? And really, really quick. And I'm pretty sure that some people on the podcasting speed up their voice too. So it's so interesting. What you choose to do. I think you don't. I'm relaxing with my podcast now. I'm relaxing into it and allowing myself to have a few a few little gaps.
Well, I don't take any out of this, as any listener will know. They're all in there. So I don't do any of that. And I actually find that really heavily edited with all the jump cuts and things like that on YouTube, I find that quite tiring to watch if I'm watching it, a lot of it. Whereas something that is more conversational, it feels like somebody's speaking to me. And now the ironic thing is, I might then speed that up to, 1.5 times or 2 times, but there's still something that's a natural about it. It's a bit, I can't explain that, but how can it be that I don't
Yeah.
like stuff with jump cuts, but I'll quite happily listen to some stuff on double speed and it doesn't bother me, but it's still got a natural flow, albeit faster. I don't know. I think I might have contradicted myself there, but
No, I'm exactly the
Mhm.
same. I speed things up often to 1.45, is
Yeah.
that 1 3/4 speed, or 2?
Uh-huh.
Um, and the same with a lot of podcasts as well. But yeah, like you, my brain is trying to keep going with these jumpy
Yeah.
videos, and it's all very slick and everything, and it's quite sort of entertaining.
Hmm.
But I'm trying to learn something,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, what was that?" I mean, for them, it might be quite good because I have to go back and, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Got to
I'm,
replay it to get the information again.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm watching quite a lot of their work on repeat. But yeah, it is tiring.
Hmm. There's
Maybe it's an age thing, Alex, as well.
maybe it is, yeah. There's a balance there though, and a sort of similarity between that, and I can relate this to funnels as well. So bringing it back around to ClickFunnels perhaps, but there's a thing in with sales funnels where there is the optimum that you can do to get the highest possible conversion rates. You know, the maximum or the optimum number of emails that you're going to send out to get the most clicks, and people go to extremes to do this to get the absolute maximum out of it. But it can actually leave a really sort of sour taste in the mouth of the person who's on the receiving end of it, where you're getting a barrage of emails. And yes, they may well be getting the higher click-through rate on their emails and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't actually sit right. And I think that is a similar analogy to this thing with the editing. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get people to stay on for the longest, click through to the next video and so on. But there will be a whole segment of people who will just switch off to that because of the fact that it is fatiguing and tiring. So I think it's all very well to look at stats and see what's going to work best, but there's a bit of a balance to be done there with what actually is pleasant as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought about that. It's honoring your ideal client, your
Yeah.
audience, isn't it? It's yeah, that's such an interesting thought. Yeah, I'm going to actually unsubscribe after this to a couple of people who you just
Yeah.
put in my brain. I'm getting really fed up with this. Yeah, that's so interesting. Giving people a chance to just take in what
Hmm.
you're doing and take it or leave it,
Yeah.
and giving them that space and that option.
Hmm. And,
Yeah.
in video, the double speed thing is always there. So if they want to activate that, they can, but rather than force it on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. 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 Fascinating. Hmm.
So when somebody comes to you for coaching, where are they normally at in terms of is it people who've got some experience and they want to improve, or are they coming to you that they got a business and they want to sort of to promote that more and see that? How would you normally go about something like that with somebody sort of just coming to you fresh in terms of laying out a sort of plan for them?
Yeah. So generally, people come into my world who want more visibility and want a bit more professionalism in their lives. Live videos,
Yeah.
um, and their podcasts. You know, they want more visibility, they want more audience, they want more sales in their businesses, and generally they're solopreneurs.
Hmm.
They've maybe been doing it for a year, a couple of years, something like that, and their visibility is a bit random.
Hmm.
A lot of them are fairly good at using Canva and getting graphics going,
Right.
and they're quite good at playing with reels and stories and um, live videos using the native
Hmm.
platform on their phones. But yeah, they want to amp up things. They want to look more professional. They want to be more consistent. So yeah, I try and teach them all sorts of aspects around that. So I'm quite interested to see at the moment what's happening over Instagram live videos, because I think it's been terrible.
Right.
Instagram lives, I just think for ages it's just been so basic and poor quality. But sort of as we speak, they're opening up Instagram Live to third-party platforms. So I'm quite fascinated to see what's going to happen there, because a lot of my audience use Instagram. It's one of their favorite platforms. I find Instagram a bit of a pain in the neck. Right. But yeah, you have to be where your audience is. And so I'm very pleased that things seem to be opening up to make live video on there. Better quality audio.
Yes, yeah.
Better quality video. And you'll be able to share your screen and things like that, which is just, you haven't had to be able to do anything. The only workaround I've found with Instagram Live is you can share a photo that's in your camera roll while you're live. So what I have done in the past is to do like a mini live show, a solo one. And, my first point is this, and then I find the picture on my camera roll and bring up the title.
Right.
A bit like you would do it on YouTube, have the title coming up.
Yeah.
And then talk about it. And then, so I've pre-created these very basic titles, title pages on Canva or something.
Right.
So that, yeah. So that's an area that I think with live video has been not particularly a brilliant user or audience experience.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so it's just that you're only allowed to use the sort of built-in camera on the phone, on the device that you're doing it on, whereas the thing that they're rolling out is for you would then be able to use something like Ecamm, where you can get a stream key and stream from Ecamm. There was another third-party app that was out, that's still out, in fact. And every so often, somebody in the Ecamm group says, "Hey, I found this tool that we can use to stream to Instagram," and then they go live on Instagram. I did this as well, and then within like 10 minutes, somebody comes on and says, "By the way, this is breaking the terms of service of Instagram." So, so then you have to stop. But this what's rolling out now is officially the Instagram official thing. So that'll be amazing to be able to do just vertical video on Instagram from Ecamm. Will be pretty amazing.
I'm all for that. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. But the other thing about Instagram is, unless you got one of the sort of Max phones, the Pro ones, the Mega, whatever they're called.
Yes, yeah.
It's titchy to see what you're doing.
Right.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think third-party tools for live streaming are brilliant. And I think if it's got some more bells and whistles, but you can do it without it being complicated or certainly glitchy. Like, for example, both of us absolutely adore Ecamm Live. It's just never really been glitchy. It's always been really reliable, and it just can look, with just a little bit of understanding of how to use it, it can look amazing.
Yeah.
And I think if we're in business, I think if we can show our best selves with just using a few techniques, a little bit of training, a few tools, it can make a massive difference to how you're coming across and how you can help people. I mean, one little technique that a lot of people still haven't grasped, during lockdown, it was such a typical thing that happened, is that people went live or were on Zoom or whatever from their laptops with the back of their laptop on their
Yep.
table lower than them, and it's tilted like that degree. And the lighting might be bad as well. So you're literally looking up somebody's nose.
Yes, the up the nose shot.
Yes. They look so old because you can see all these dark lines happening because of that, and maybe because of their lighting as well. And there's just really, really simple things. One of my freebies that I've got is just, 5 little tips that are free, that you can just improve your look and sound straight away.
Yeah.
And I think what you teach, I think if somebody can come from an aspect like that maybe and realize how it improves their confidence doing the Zooms, doing the lives, whatever, they say, oh, I look quite good. And then that will encourage them to go a next level and get some nice lighting, get a nice microphone, and step up from there as their confidence grows, as they realize how much better they're coming across.
I just want to take a moment to talk about Ecamm Live. This is the live production Mac software that we're using to live stream and record this podcast. In my opinion, it is the best live streaming and recording software on the market today. So what exactly does it do? Well, essentially, it allows you to control the content that you're including in your video, be it a live stream or a recorded video. And you do this by building out different scenes that contain the content that you want to show. This content may be a feed from your camera, or indeed multiple cameras, or you may be sharing a screen, which is what I do a lot of in my tutorial style videos that I make for my Take One Tech YouTube channel. You can share the screen from a second computer, or maybe even a gaming console if you are a live streaming gamer. And just as we are doing in this podcast, you can also bring in guests using Ecamm Live's built-in interview mode, where guests can join from a browser and you can then incorporate their video and audio into your production. Finally, you can add all kinds of additional graphical and animated overlay elements and even movies to really add a level of branded professionalism that would be hard to achieve in any other way. The real magic happens though when you hit that record or go live button, because then you are able to seamlessly switch back and forth between all of the scenes that you've created. And indeed, this is how all of the videos have been created for my Take One Tech YouTube channel. And the reason it's called Take One Tech, by the way, is because all of the videos are made in one take with no edits. I just hit record, make the video, and as soon as I hit the end recording button, the file is there and ready to be uploaded straight to YouTube. What I love about Ecamm is not just the ease of use that it has when compared to other live streaming software, but also the greater flexibility it gives in terms of layouts and designs that you can create for your shows when compared to some of the hardware streaming solutions. And one thing that makes Ecamm great specifically for podcasts is the fact that it has the ability to record isolated audio tracks. So once we finish recording this podcast, I'll have a separate audio file for me, my guests, and any other audio tracks that have been a part of the recording. That makes the editing and repurposing of the content for the podcast so much more streamlined. It does have another little trick up its sleeve though, and that is its virtual camera feature. This allows you to take the video output from Ecamm Live straight into communication apps like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Discord, and so on. This means that rather than just appearing in Zoom meetings with a regular camera feed, you can now show up with all of the amazing production values that Ecamm Live gives you and deliver that straight into your Zoom meeting. And trust me, when you rock up to a Zoom meeting with Ecamm, the other participants will be truly amazed. So whether for live streaming, recorded video content, or to level up your Zoom game, I highly recommend you give Ecamm Live a go. You can get a free trial by going to takeonetech.io/ecamm. That's ECAMM. takeonetech.io/ecamm. And of course, you can find a link to that in the show notes as well. You will certainly not regret giving it a go. Now let's get back to the show. It's funny that because with live streaming on YouTube and Instagram or wherever it happens to be, often people are kind of looking up to everybody. That there's all these people who seem to be doing it to a much more professional level, perhaps. That's perhaps a bit daunting. With Zoom, it's the opposite because everyone usually looks rubbish. And so it is actually really easy to be, head and shoulders above everyone else on Zoom. And it really does have a massive impact from that point of view. I find that when somebody is on a Zoom call that, you know, looks and sounds from a, you know, just picture quality, image quality, audio quality point of view better than everyone else, it's almost like they've instantly commanded the respect of the meeting before anyone's even said anything. You know, if you come into a meeting and see, you know, 10 or 20 little boxes and one of them's just got a really crisp looking picture, and then when they speak, you can hear them. You don't hear fan noise or whatever it is. Then it makes a really huge difference. So I totally agree. It's a great way to sort of boost your presence and confidence to feel that.
Yeah, I think that is where a tool like Ecamm is just a complete game changer, isn't there? Because I don't know whether OBS you can do it, and what is it called? Anyway, the other ones, I don't know whether you can use them as a virtual camera and virtual mic. But you certainly can.
Technically can do it with OBS. However, the thing with OBS is the thing that I struggled with for so long before finding Ecamm is that Ecamm is just so user friendly. That's the thing. It's so easy to just put these things together, and OBS is it's cross-platform, and I say it's the worst of both worlds. So it's on Mac and PC, and it to actually do that, it therefore can't have all of the amazing stuff that you can do just on the Mac, and likewise the other way. So. And it's sort of built by committee almost, because it's open source, whereas Ecamm is just so focused because it's just driven by Ken and Glenn, the developers. It's not a massive team behind it. It's just their sort of focused vision. So game changer is the word that you use there. It really is.
Yeah. Once I went on a Zoom meeting thing, and there was a couple, and they were leading this thing, and it was just because it was their anniversary, this couple, and so they were doing this Zoom thing for people all around the world, just to sort of wish them happy anniversary and whatever. And there are all these different types of cameras and stuff. We all see it, and half of the people not on camera anyway. But I just created this overlay with coloured confetti coming down saying happy anniversary, and every so often I would just click it to go so that you could see the confetti and stuff. And I was just so happy to be able to do something fun for them like that. And it's just totally way out there, isn't it, compared to the norm. And it still is, even after these 3 years, basically, we've had to practice, haven't we? Everybody practicing a live video. It's still way out there, but it's not out of people's league to do it.
Yes, yeah.
Just needs the tool, a Mac, and a little bit of training on how to do it.
Yeah. That's what I loved. I was saying earlier that I grabbed your guide that you've got on your website. So the quick start to launch your podcast guide. I really love the way that did just sort of break down everything in really sort of simple steps as to, what you need to get set up and get started. And it's perfect really, because like you say, you don't need to have a big long kit list. It's easy to see another live streamer. Often live streamers will put their kit list somewhere and you can go and look at it, and then it's just trailing down the page and there's all these different things, but what actually is essential, and it's all in this guide you've got. So for anyone listening, you'll find links to all of this stuff obviously in the show notes and the description as well. But that's what I loved about this, was it's just broken it all down, and not just the equipment but the actual sort of thought process, how to actually go about creating a podcast. I really love the way that you sort of detailed it all in here as well.
Thank you, Alec. Thank you so much. I have struggled with overwhelm a lot, and procrastination. And somebody like Ian Anderson Gray says he's a recovering perfectionist. I think you've got a top, haven't you, that says that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that sort of thing, it can just completely get in our way and stop us doing it. And that guide, I've actually got a course that I recommend after the guide, because you can start a podcast just from your phone, to just do it, even if it's very easy with something like podcasting, just to delete if you've created some episodes, and you just think, oh, it's terrible quality. I'm upping my game now. I'm getting a nice microphone and whatever. And you think, this is terrible. It's just so easy just to delete them. It's not a problem at all. And, you can start a podcast for free on your phone, and you can just use it. A lot of people say this, actually, I'm just practicing. And that helps with that whole perfectionism, overwhelm thing. I'm just practicing, and you can produce and publish your podcast, but you don't need to worry that it's all got to be perfect at the start. And if it really isn't, and you don't like it, you can always delete it and start again with a better microphone, maybe with a paid hosting platform. A hosting is somewhere that holds your podcast and constantly gives it out to all the places, Apple and Spotify and wherever. So I love helping people just get started. You can just do it right now in the next 5 minutes or so. And maybe if it's overwhelming for you, treat it as a practice. For some people, they don't need that. They're quite happy to get some gear and, start with a more professional setup, as it were, and they don't have that overwhelm issue that they've got to get over, first of all. But yeah, for those people who are thinking, maybe I may want to start a podcast, not quite sure. So I don't want to buy a whole load of equipment and pay subscriptions to places. Well, just try it. Just practice it on your phone. So that's where that guide can help people.
And like I say, I love the way that you've sort of put down in there as well, like the steps to go through to decide, what exactly it is you're going to do and the steps you need to take to get there. But just coming back to the point you made about, you can always delete it later as well. One thing that I've found is there's been a few videos that I've made for my YouTube channel where, like, after the fact, I thought, I'm not really sure about that. I don't think that it was a particularly good video. I don't think I did a good job of explaining whatever it was. And, maybe it wasn't even on topic for what I normally create. It always seems that those are the videos where I'll get the best comments back from them. Like someone says, I can't tell you enough how much this has helped me out. And you never really know who is on the other side listening or watching, that is actually just waiting for the one little bit of information that you're going to give in that. So it could be that your little practices that you always intend to delete might have a life-changing impact on somebody else.
Yeah. I just got that feeling that you were gonna say that and had that experience. It's so interesting, isn't it? I think some of us sort of bulk against that as well. If we're creating a post on social media and it's a real, maybe it's a long form sort of heart to heart type post, and you think, shall I put that on there? It's nothing to do with my business. It's not going to help me in business. And you get a whole load of comments and then you post something that's slick and really helpful for business, and you've spent ages on it and just nobody seems to respond. And it's just natural, I think, for us, isn't it, to be just really disheartened. I don't want people commenting on my random post about my life or whatever. But I think we have to remember that it's the human connection that actually sells. It takes longer often in business, doesn't it, to get build that know, like, and trust factor with people. But that human connection thing is so important. So yeah, you're right. We shouldn't be hasty in deleting stuff that we think is maybe irrelevant and not that high quality.
I think it's it's a great idea to go in with, though, knowing that you can delete it, though. I think that's a great way to sort of frame it and say, well, don't worry, just put it up there and then you can always delete it later. And then, after it's up there, maybe that's when the comments start coming and you can realize that, maybe I'll leave it there after all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing as well that we could think about a little bit is the difference between something like live videos and then to a lesser degree the difference between YouTube or pre-recorded videos to podcasting. At the moment, it's really easy for somebody to comment straight away on your live video or even on the replay. And you can, if you've got an audience and people who get used to you going live and they're the type of people who tend to comment or even like or whatever, you can get a boost in your emotions quite quickly because you're getting that response from somebody. And then when you start to get known on YouTube and, your videos are being seen a bit more, you can get comments there, but it's a bit harder than something like live video.
Yes, yeah.
But then for podcasting, at the moment, it's much harder than that.
Yeah, you don't get the feedback.
No. Yeah, it can. So building a community and building connection with podcasting really, really helps because hardly anyone goes to like Apple Podcast app and makes a review, writes a review. Hardly anyone does that.
Right.
It's very hard to get somebody to do that. So, I think if you are podcasting, if you're just starting podcasting, if you're thinking about podcasting, thinking about going live to a podcast is a really good idea because then you can get that instant connection and response from people, or creating a community around your podcast if you're not going live or using video. But I do love vodcasting,
right,
as it were. It's a game changer for speed and for creating a sort of repurposing content machine, as it were.
Yeah,
it's sort of killing two birds with one stone.
I've not actually thought. I mean, it's crazy that I hadn't thought about that. But if for somebody who's just starting out with a podcast to do it as live to get that instant feedback, I've always been coming at it from the point of view of this simplifies the production process and the repurposing side of it. But thinking about like how long it would take to actually get that sort of feedback from a audio only podcast versus a live podcast is quite a difference. So that's a massive another massive incentive to be thinking about the sort of video first that I'd just not really thought of, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there's something very, very special and close about just audio, isn't there? There's a really, really close connection people get by hearing your voice, by recognize your voice, by having your voice plugged into their head. With no distractions. And often people will listen to their podcast in a very special time for them.
Yes.
So it might be that they're cleaning or, doing some humdrum thing. But a lot of people get through those tasks that they don't want to do by listening to something that they love.
Yeah.
But it might be that they're going for their walk outdoors with their dog in nature and they still love listening to something. So it's a very sort of special protective place often that people have for you if they like your show, for your podcast, and they're very excited to get that notification that your show is there on podcast. So it's quite different from live, but there is that big disparity at the moment with the feedback that you're getting. I think things are improving, but very slowly.
Yeah.
Podcasting over that type of thing.
That's another thing. It's funny now you mention that, because I certainly know that from my experience, that, you know, I feel that I've got a much more sort of intimate personal connection with people that I only listen to and don't watch on live streams. And yet it's funny that on the one hand, they feel much more deeply connected to you. And on the other hand, as the audio podcaster, you've got hardly any connection with them in the same way that you do on a live stream. It's a bit of a weird dynamic there that's sort of flipped around on its head.
Yeah. And I think because of that lack of feedback often that people get, that I think that's probably a major aspect of why a lot of people, you get this pod fade.
Yes.
So
I've
after
heard of that.
7 or 11 episodes or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, the podcast just fades off because they haven't got that feedback to know
Yes. Yeah.
how people are responding and enjoying it. It is a shame. So you have to really, really push through. And I would really recommend that people think about creating a community, you know, even just posting little audiograms of your podcast or a little video snippet of your podcast, and you can actually cheat with that. You don't have to have your phone with you or your computer on the whole time and then spend ages trimming your half an hour or an hour show till you find a little clip. You can actually do a clip on your phone or computer after you've recorded it,
Right.
pretend that it's in the middle of your show.
Yes. Yeah.
But there are also tools, which we love talking about, tools which do that automatically for you. One of them I really like, and this is good for live video and for podcasting, is Headliner app.
All right.
Yeah, that is so cool. What I love about it is that at the moment I've just got a free account with them, and it's pretty good what you can get for the free. And what happens is that once you have, if it's a podcast, once you've uploaded your podcast, shortly afterwards, it will send you an email with an automated clip that it's made with your branding. The branding is a bit limited on the free one, but it's still your colors and whatever. It still looks nice, got a nice look to it. And they have used AI to clip out a section of your podcast.
That's amazing.
And you can do it yourself if it's a video. You can upload a video to them. The videos have to be quite short on the free plan. They can be longer if you pay for it. But it's so good. And so what I have is a story shape set up. So it automatically each week sends me this, you know, so I could just download that and just post that without doing anything. And I like that sort of thing. If something's completely automated.
It's funny because I honestly thought you were going to start talking about Descript, which is, you know, you take the video and that, and you can go in and just clip out little bits as if it was a text editor, but you're clipping out the. That's what I thought you were going to say. But yeah, this is. I'm going to have to check this out. Anything like I'm like you. Anything that automates the process for me, I'm really keen on checking out. So that's cool.
Yeah, Descript is amazing. And once you've got quite a simple plan process for your, you know, you've got a process for doing your live show. Maybe you're doing a podcast as well, and you've just got this process that you maybe put in Asana or whatever, or you just have on a sheet, and you can just tick what you're doing off. And then, yeah, if you're using Descript, it's just fantastic, isn't it? So much you can do.
It's quite
with
magical.
The words, the sound quality, your two different guests, your videos, and clipping them to. I only learnt that you can have the different shapes and sizes for your video. I didn't even know that until a few days ago. Yeah, and they have an audiogram feature on there, don't they? And it's not very expensive. Some tools you don't get much, and it's a lot of money, but
Yes, yeah.
There is a learning aspect to Descript.
Oh, there definitely is, yeah. If I'm totally honest, I signed up to Descript. I had a month trial, and then after the month trial, I paid for it for a month, and I hadn't used it because there was a bit of a barrier for me to use it. So I cancelled it. I came back to it again 6 months later. The same thing happened. And then it's only now, this time, that I've come back to it and stuck with it because there was a bit of a learning curve. I think they've improved that actually with later sort of iterations of it. But there is definitely, and you also need to have the sort of intent behind it. Whereas I think probably the first 2 times I had it, I wasn't really doing any repurposing. I wasn't doing any editing. So it was more just because I was geeking out on the idea behind it. Whereas now with this podcast, I'm putting this into there to, extract things from it. And so I suppose I've just genuinely got a use for it now.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you had a struggle with it. You, the tech god, had a bit of a struggle a couple of times. Yeah, so if you've got that, I think, helping us who are sort of perfectionists and procrastinators and whatever, having like a process, just a simple process written down. And I'd recommend that if people haven't had a process to doing a live video or a podcast or whatever, that they just start very, very simply, just putting a few things down and not like me, a whole long, A4 page of everything. So to repurpose it, and then your content really works for you. So you just need one tool like Descript, and if you've got a process, you can make your blog out of it, which both for live video and podcasting, a blog actually for SEO is really, really helpful, isn't it? Because Google still doesn't understand audio, does it? It doesn't recognize audio still.
Yeah.
So with a tool like Descript, if you can transcribe, well, if the tool can transcribe for you what you're saying, that can just be so helpful. And even if you don't go into there and change it so it looks gorgeous and everything for a blog, if you just use it as your show notes, your words are going to be Googleable.
Yes, yeah. Helps with the SEO and things like that.
Yeah. And then, like you were saying in Descript, it's very easy to see words rather than if you're using a tool like a lot of people use the free Audacity.
Yes, yeah.
Or GarageBand for Mac or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to really listen to the whole thing to pick out special quotes that you can use and little segments. And sometimes you have to like listen to it again or listen to sections a number of times. It's very time consuming. But for something like Descript, you can easily just see, oh, that was pretty good. You highlight it just like you would in a Word document and just straight away export it really quickly. It doesn't take very long. Yeah, brilliant.
It's pretty magical. I was blown away the first time I saw it. It was just unbelievable, that the power that it's got. And like you say, it's just removing some of the friction with editing and things like that.
Yeah, I actually used it once because I was interviewing somebody on my show and she's homeless. And so she was sitting in a cafe, which was quite noisy with people and with music in the background. And because she's homeless, she doesn't have an expensive microphone either. So the sound quality was really poor, but what she was saying was really good. So I didn't just want to delete it. And so I spent a while in using Descript, not using another program, but editing my guest's microphone sound, cutting her sound out when I spoke so that you didn't have a load of background noise, and then improving, fiddling around. They've got so many audio controls if you want to go in there and trying different things and it really made a massive difference. I'd love actually to have a little audiogram of before and after.
Yeah.
I really should do that for people to see what you can do with it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of tools, I do always like to save a little bit of time, and we've actually gone past the top of the hour, so I want to be conscious of your time. But I would just love to show your studio space and just talk through what you're using for your setup, because this is kind of like the really everything that you talk about in your gear guide. You don't need to buy all of the latest and greatest, but what I love is that you have got really great audio in your setup, and I always say that audio is the most important, more so than camera and that. But perhaps you can just talk through what you use in your setup.
Yeah, so I am very, very blessed to have a really great mic. It is a Heil PR40 microphone, which is also a musician's mic. So if I wanted to use it for singing or whatever, playing the guitar, or I think drums even, you can use it for that. You can't really see it in, what I'm doing at the moment, but it's a limited edition black one as well. Woohoo! So yeah, it's an expensive mic, but as you were saying, audio is, when you hear a professional audio, and what I would absolutely love to have next is a Rodecaster.
Yep.
And you, Alex, have a course, don't you, about the new Rodecaster Pro 2, which whenever I've heard anyone using a Rodecaster, and I'm sure you've got one there because your audio sounds amazing, I think it just sounds incredible. So a really good quality microphone immediately sounds much better.
Yes, yeah.
So I've got the Heil PR40 going into a Focusrite Scarlett Solo, which is an audio interface which you have to have if you've got a microphone like that, because it's got an XLR cable to it.
Right.
So you have to, and it means that the sound quality will be a bit better, and you can adjust it a bit more than if you've got it plugged straight into your computer with a USB. So that is my favorite piece of equipment, actually. I've got very simple lighting around me, which are two big soft boxes. So they're pretty enormous. They're very, very good value for what you get. You get great big tripods with each of them, and you tend to get them in pairs as well, in a sort of bundle package. And so you can put them where you want them. So they give a soft light on your face. You can get some that are color graded as well, so you can change the temperature of the color to make it a bit warmer or cooler, whatever makes you look good. But I use Ecamm for that, so I don't need that.
Yep.
But you can position them where you want, and you can angle them a bit. So I've got them like at 45 degrees from my face. So even though I've got a window here, can you see my hand? Yeah, here, with light coming in there, you can't just depend on that. You need some extra lighting, otherwise you'll look a bit like, you've got a black line. There's a word for it when you've got a black line down the middle of your face. I can't remember what the word
and
is.
Keeps it consistent as well. So if you have on a cloudy day or something, you just always know that it's going to be consistent then as well, I suppose.
Definitely. Yeah. I've got a basic webcam there. It's the Logitech C920 webcam, which a lot of people have. And if you haven't got any webcam apart from your computer one, unless you've got like a brand new Mac, I think there's some really snazzy webcams actually coming with new Macs. But I would recommend at least you get something like this. And, it does improve the quality a lot. It's not as great as some of them, but it improves the quality a lot. Just be careful if you've got a webcam other than an Elgato webcam. Make sure if you're recording a live video or whatever you're doing, don't have the microphone from the webcam.
That's happened to me before.
It's terrible. It
Yeah.
will sound horrendous.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you know where your sound is coming from, because it can automatically think that you want the sound from the webcam.
Yes.
And you don't. You really, really don't.
The funniest thing about that is that happened to me once. I was doing a live stream on Amazon, and the title of the live stream was all about checklists when you're live streaming. And I was talking all about checking audio, checking all of this sort of stuff. And my mic had switched over to the microphone that I've got like an over-the-shoulder shot. So it was like the webcam mic behind me. And then it was only like half an hour in that somebody pointed it out, and I thought, the irony that I didn't check my checklist on the video about checklists.
It's those sort of moments though that we just have to laugh off. And
Yeah.
like a typical one for us to do is that we're muted. We're on mute. We don't realize. So that's why Ecamm have made quite a mini business from selling t-shirts saying you're on mute.
Yes.
And we can all just laugh about these things, because there's some certain things that would just go wrong on live videos. However professional you are and everything, things will go wrong. Some things are out of your control, some things aren't. But there's that human aspect that we've always got to sort of embrace. Those things that will go wrong. And everyone forgives you, don't they? If the whole thing is completely unprofessional and you're obviously not caring about it, then they're not going to forgive you. But yeah, you can just have a laugh about it.
That's a great little bit of advice, actually, to wrap things up on, because I do want to be conscious of your time. We've run over it a little bit, so I don't want to keep you too long. But I will just want to highlight your website again with some of the courses you've got. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about those and what you've got coming up, and what's included in all of those things that you've got on there.
Oh, thank you, Alec. Yeah, so I have a course on podcasting to get you from a beginner, total beginner, to your launch party in 30 days. So I help people to get that show up and running. And there's a whole module on there about going live, if you want to do it like that, going live to a podcast, and lots of tricks and things with that. So I've got a short Ecamm live course, just a very simple one, how to start off completely. If you've got a Mac or you're thinking about getting a Mac because Ecamm is so fantastic, then I help you get set up on there and share your screen and bring guests in and stuff like that. So I've got a little mini course about a wonderful all-in-one podcasting platform called Alitu, and it helps you learn how to use that and how to get a podcast going very simply and editing very easily with that program called Alitu. And I've got a coaching package for people who want some help with their mindset or their look or their sound or tech aspects, one-to-one coaching package, and individual coaching as well on those things.
Well, thanks so much. All of this is linked, obviously, in the description and in the show notes for anyone watching on the replay, or listening, I should say, on the podcast as well. So definitely go and check all of those things out. But yeah, I just want to say a big thank you for coming in and sharing your knowledge and insights and wisdom. It's been really a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much, Alec. Thank you for listening and watching, everyone.
Cool. Well, I'll have a little chat with you afterwards. We'll have a little chat about Stream Deck. But in the meantime, I'll just sign off and say goodbye to everyone. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and listening. And if you want to check out the video, if you're on the audio, just to see what we were talking about in terms of some of those courses and things like that, and also Katy's setup as well. If you'd like to connect with me, you can always also check out the show notes. You'll find all the ways to connect down there as well. See you next time with another great guest and another great conversation. Thanks again for watching and listening. See you next time.